also induct equality and democracy in the structures of global financial and economic governance, especially the Bretton Woods institutions. The UN General Assembly, the most universal global forum, must play a central role in reinforcing multilateralism and enhancing equity and justice in international relations. The world's attention must also turn away from pursuing narrow national ambitions and face collectively, multilaterally, first and foremost, the existential threats that we face as the human race, be it in the shape of the COVID pandemic, be it in the form of climate catastrophe and climate change, or the issues of the nuclear threat, terrorism, extremism, the increasing propensity for narrow-minded populism, authoritarianism, religious intolerance. We must confront the rise of the ideologies of hate, of xenophobia, of Islamophobia, of populist extremism, racial and religious intolerance, which impose discrimination and violence and even threats of genocide against vulnerable minorities in certain countries. Mr. President, the United Nations Security Council has the primary responsibility for the maintenance of international peace and security. Multilateral solutions under the umbrella of the Security Council offer the most effective approach to promoting peace and resolving conflicts. Parties to a dispute cannot advocate multilateral processes one day, multilateral reform one day, and insist on bilateral avenues the next, or ultimately impose unilateral solutions. Pakistan firmly believes that the major security problems, including those in our region, Madam President, can be effectively and peacefully resolved through the active involvement of the Security Council and the Secretary General. Multilateralism must be based on universal and consistent adherence to the fundamental principles of the UN Charter, self-determination of peoples, non-use or threat of force, non-acquisition of territory by the use of force, respect for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of states, and non-interference in their internal affairs. Strict adherence to the Charter's principles has become all the more essential in the context of recent and ongoing conflict. The Council must seek to resolve conflicts and disputes, not merely manage them. It should address the underlying causes of conflicts, such as foreign occupation and suppression of the recognition of rights of peoples to self-determination. And in accordance with their obligation, under Article 25 of the Charter, Member States must implement the decisions of this very UN Security Council. The Security Council must act not only after a conflict has erupted, it must act preemptively to prevent and avert conflicts before they occur. The Security Council should be enabled to meet automatically, without a procedural decision, on any item which is already on its agenda, if so requested by a Council member or a concerned state. The Secretary General should be less resonant in exercising his authority under Article 99 of the Charter to draw the Council's attention to impeding threats to peace and security. And no party to a conflict or dispute should be able to refuse the Secretary General's good offices whenever these are offered, nor to reject recourse to the modalities for the specific settlement of disputes prescribed under Charter 8 of the UN Charter. Madam President, the Security Council should no doubt reflect contemporary global realities. The most significant changes in global realities is the emergence of a UN membership now composed by 193 mostly small and medium-sized states. They need to be equitably represented through the expansion of the Security Council. Adding new permanent members would numerically reduce the opportunities for the vast majority of the United Nations member states to be represented on the Security Council. We must adhere to the principle of sovereign equality of all, not the superiority of some. Surely we all believe that a further democratization of the United Nations, a further democratization of the UN Security Council, of the UN General Assembly, is what would empower this institution, would provide it with the moral authority to act. It does not serve the purposes of the United Nations to add more members to this elitist club, to expand the power of the tyrannical veto. It would serve this institution to further democratize, to allow for the principle of the sovereign equality of all and not the superiority of some. In the past, the Security Council has been unable to act due to differences among its permanent members. Adding new permanent members would multiply the possibility of paralysis at the Security Council. The problem cannot be the solution, and surely states which have a record of not implementing the resolutions of this very Security Council cannot be considered worthy of consideration for any form of Council membership. The proposal of the Uniting for Consensus group to create 11 additional non-permanent elected seats to the Council offers the most realistic option for an equitable and early reform of the Security Council. The UFC model would provide equitable representation to all member states and regions, including Africa. Periodic elections would enhance the accountability of the Security Council members. It would numerically and politically expand the influence and role of elected members in relation to the existing 5 permanent members. It would preserve the principle of sovereign equality. Madam President, all our endeavors to promote world order